He wants you to succeed. Have faith of a mustard seed. Get up on your feet. Rise up.
Welcome to the Drexel Seymour Show. Of course, you know that crime is a big concern for all of us here in the Turks and Caicos Islands. And I also know that crime is not new to Turks and Caicos. I believe throughout the world, countries are experiencing an unprecedented growth in crime. But I think in Turks and Caicos it is more evident because we're smaller. And so we know people, we know what's happening, and furthermore, it doesn't seem like we're able to catch these criminals. And so to be concerned, we are walking and driving alongside criminals. And today, it's even now becoming a political issue. As always, during election time, crime becomes politicized. We've seen after time, no matter who the government of the day is, crimes continue to take place. Our next door neighbor, the Bahamas, that was a big political thing as well. It didn't reduce crime. There are some fundamental reasons that's going on, and we need to get to the bottom of it. And today, I am so honored and delighted to have as our guest today the Acting Commissioner of Police, Mr. Bailey. And I really am honored to I know he's busy trying to solve what's happening in our country. And so if there's anything about time, I appreciate him, giving up his time to be on the show today. And so with that said, I want to welcome Mr. Bailey to the Drexel Seymour Show. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Mr. Bailey, before we get into our conversation, just let the viewers know a little about your background, who you are, how many years you've been in the police force, etc. Just tell us a little about you.
Okay, I'm from Jamaica. I started in the Jamaica Constabulary Force somewhere about 1984. I served for 40 years and 8 months. I worked in several areas within the force. I started out doing the regular beat duty, patrolling plazas. I did operational policing, where I went to one of our operational units, which was the mobile reserve. Then was a very strong an operation, focusing on gangs and some of the more volatile type communities. I transitioned from there into fraud investigation. That was what actually defined my career most, because I spent 19 years as a fraud investigator, doing some of the most complex fraud investigation. Then I moved on to what we call organized crime type policing, where I was actually sent to a specific unit that was demoralized. They were on the verge of closing that unit, and I was sent there to rebrand the unit, and I went, did a rebranding of the unit, and treated with some of the most complex organized crime, from counter-terrorism, kidnapping, human trafficking, and major fraud investigation, counterfeit, looking at the intellectual property rights, etc. Then I moved on to what I call geographic type policing, where I became a commander for one of the most difficult divisions in Jamaica, which was the St. Anna Central Division. And I want to highlight something in respect to that division. Whilst I was there, I had some discussion with the then Commissioner of Police, who was Mr. Owen Ellington, and I indicated to him that with the homicide rate that we had, if I were given a certain amount of resources, I could slash the homicide rate by 50%.
Wow.
A lot of my senior officers were sort of not impressed with my statement, and they actually jeered me.
They thought it was too high?
Too ambitious.
Too ambitious, yes.
I was a young commander, and I didn't understand divisional command. That was 2014. Whilst there, we had a murder of 78 in 2013. 2014, the murder went down to 37 in 1 year. That that was unprecedented. And not only did we see a reduction in murder, but robbery went down by 52%, breaking and I think was last went down by 70 and 78%. And what contributed to that? It's not just about hardcore policing, it was a mixture of what we used. I believe in hardcore policing.
When you say hardcore policing, what do you mean?
We have to focus on the criminals.
Okay.
Target them, go at them. I am not going to mince word to say if you are shooting at the police are going to come at you and we're going to shoot at you too. And we are better trained. That's just a principle. We operate within the frame of the law, but within the same breath, we are not going to retreat. If you challenge us, we are trained and we are going to use our superior training. And that's one of the things I tell my men. Use your superior training at all time. You must come out as a winner. So we saw a reduction. So one of the things that we did also was to focus on the gangs. So within 1 year, we had 39 gang members arrested. So once you pull them from the street, then definitely we'll see the ripple effect in terms of reduction in crime. And so not only that, but there was also community engagement. When I took over the command then, there was a community by the name of Nannyville. And if you can do the research, Nannyville was a very volatile community. I took command in January 2013, and on the 14th of February, we had an incident where 9 persons or 9 people were shot and injured, including a baby.
Wow.
It was about 9 o'clock that night. I went to the area. I stayed there until about 3:30 in the morning. And I said to the residents, then, this will never happen again. We started to work with the residents, engage a number of social organizations, the church, the politicians, NGOs, and the citizens.
Yeah.
And we, first of all, before I get there, I immediately requested that we implemented what we call a curfew. And so we have military and police officers in this space for a period of time. Then when the area was basically under control, I requested that the military be put in. And then I had what we call operational police, working with all of those sort of. And then after a while, I pulled the operational police and I replaced them with community police. So you would never see a police in Blue anymore. You'll see them in their red stripe, what we call the number 1 uniform, sidearms. And we built a relationship with the community. We established structure and systems, citizen association. We instituted, for example, a group headed by the Justice of the Peace, that if they want any form of entertainment activity, they have to route the application to the Justice of the Peace, sign, and when it comes to move, they're able to move it. We got the old age group come together, have treat for them, got a number of stakeholders to support, and come to stabilize. And for years up to this very day, that community has not reverted to the level that they were. There's another community.
That's amazing.
Augustine. Augustine is known for violence. When I took over, there were 12 homicides in that little space. And we embarked on a program working with the citizens. On a Sunday, you will see us walk in the community with church leaders, different group of people. We have spot session where we stop, we play dominoes, we even pray in the community and engage in a lot of community activity until it's unbelievable that we, in 2021, 2022, there was a 0 murder Zero murder. Unprecedented in our study for years.
Wow.
So it's a mixture of activities that I use. But I just use that so that's my career. So after I left geographic policing, I went back, and took over as area commander for Area 2, which consisted of three parishes, St. Mary, Center and Portland. Spent 9 months there, then I went back into what I call criminal investigation. I took over the counter-terrorism and organized crime branch. And then one of the focus was on gang. Some of the most complex gangs operated in Jamaica. For example, there's a gang that is known as a Klansman gang. That gang consisted of over 500 members. Wow. Created problem ever since I became a police officer. That gang was creating problem. And we decided, I went in and I reviewed some of the investigation, and I thought that we could focus on some of those gangs. To make a long story short, we were able to, the gang leader, his name is Tesha Bill. He reigned terror. And there was a murder that was committed in 2010. And when I went back in 2017, 2018, I counter-terrorism and organized crime, I requested the file. I did a review and realized that there were some solubility factors. And so I got officers to do some kinds of inquiries. And we went to the director of prosecution and said, I think we have enough to proceed. And we were able, after they didn't agree with me, but I held my ground and we had some case reviews and they agreed finally that we had enough. That young leader was arrested and he's now spending 40 years in prison. The second leader, actually took over the gang. And we started an anti-gang investigation. At one go, we arrested 54 members of that gang. And including the leader, we convicted, I think it was 26 of them. I don't remember the exact number. Including that leader. And he's serving 39 years imprisonment. So one of the focus then was on gang. And there are several other gangs that we actually we prosecuted and they are bar. And then I was transitioned from the branch to the portfolio. I took over command as the Deputy Commissioner in charge of crime, security and intelligence. And that was a significant responsibility. And our engagement in terms of gang investigation has resulted in a significant increase in our homicide figure. Last year, for example, in Jamaica, last year was about 90% reduction in murder and all other major crime went on. And the year before, we saw a reduction. So I think I've given a general overview of who I am in terms of Jamaica.
That's pretty good. I mean, that's a good track record. And it seems like a lot of fear, a lot of the criminals were afraid of the police. And they see you guys doing work. And so...
And it's about being professional.
Yeah.
I tell people that once you are professional in your job, there's nothing really to worry about. I travel by myself sometimes in Jamaica. I go into some communities by myself. You just act professional. You have a job to do and you're just going to do your job.
Yeah. Good. I like it. Now before I go into our main conversation, I want to ask you one more personal question. A lot of people have been criticizing the governor or the government for choosing a retiree person as the deputy commissioner and your acting commissioner. What do you say to those critics who are saying, why are we bringing a retiree person to the Turks and Caicos Islands to help us deal with the crime situation here?
You know, when I was at my retirement function, I used the term that I am not retired, I am retiring.
Okay.
And the bottom line is, age doesn't define you. I'm 60.
Mm-hmm.
And the civil servant, most civil servant retire at 65
In Jamaica.
in Jamaica. In some other countries, 70, it all depends. A judge stays on the bench for basically 70 years of age. The prosecutor there. So I don't think there should be a distinction in terms of where you work.
Right.
I think as long as you are healthy, as long as your brain is working effectively. As a matter of fact, there was a call in Jamaica when I was going to retire. And the Prime Minister actually made that utterance when he was addressing my retirement from that he has never gotten so much requests for an extension of an officer because the citizens of Jamaica did not want me to leave.
You're right here. Yeah. I don't know if it's about you personally. I think what's happening was because the government is sending people home at age 60 and they feel it's unfair that, that they're bringing in people at age 60 when they're sending home people. I think that's the concern, Yeah. So.
And it's a competence, the ability.
Yeah. So, with that, of course, you've been here now since October, you said?
Yes.
And, of course, we continue to face a number of crimes. I think we had about 48 or 46 murders.
48.
In 24, we had about 24, 23, I can't remember, 20 and 23. The numbers are very, very, very high. And a lot of people feel, they don't feel secure in their own country. A lot of parents have their children abroad. They say they feel better having their children abroad than having their children here in Turks and Caicos. And a lot of people from, 5 Keys to Grace Bay, Blue Hills, Wheeling, they do not feel secure. What measures or what can you give us at least 3 top measurements that you intend to put in place to make us feel secure in the Turks and Caicos Islands?
All right, let me just quickly run down the figure.
The stats?
The stats.
Okay, go ahead.
In 2017, there were 4 murders.
In 2017?
Yes. In 2018, 9 murders. In 2019, 13 murders.
13.
In 2020, 23 murders.
Oh.
2021, 14 murders. It went back down.
Right.
2022, it went up to 34. In 2023, it went back down to 15. And then last year, 2024, it was 40.
So it fluctuates.
It fluctuates. But one of the things that is very, very clear, that once we hit the double figure, we have not returned to a single digit. And my own assessment, when I came, I don't think the islands were prepared for this.
No, they're not.
When you look at Turks and Caicos and the history, look at the record before zero murder, it was more community-based type policing. So this type of trend took the nation by surprise. And if you don't have the capacity to deal with it, it's going to wash away. So what is required? When I came, I had my discussion with both the governor and the premier. I've been very consistent. We can't look at crime in isolation.
Sure.
We have to look at the broader picture. There's a nexus between economic development and crime. A lot of times people do not look at that nexus. If there's a high crime rate, people are not going to invest. It's going to impact on investment, it's going to impact on
absolutely
on almost everything. If there's a crime, high incidence of crime, children going to school will be traumatized, and it depends the community. Think about a community where you have a high level of violence. Children are unable to focus. So the ripple effect is quite significant. So we have to take an holistic approach and look at crime. So the police force is tasked with the responsibility to create that sense of citizen security.
Yes.
To ensure that citizens are safe, to ensure that there is no crime, the fear of crime is removed, and crime itself is removed. Sometimes the fear of crime is greater than the crime itself.
Yes.
So how do we treat with this? Do we need more police officers? Yes. But there are some fundamental things that must be addressed. I think the citizens need to look at the police as their police. Oftentimes people say the police there. That's it. But it is your police. Citizens of Turks and Caicos. And what do you want from your police? I put it in, I'm going to use three phrases and I'll expand on it. First of all, one of the things that I will seek to address and I'm trying to address is the people. The people within the force. What do we and how do we see an ideal police? What to you, what is an ideal police officer? As a citizen of this country, what do you want your police officer to be? So one, you look at the people, that is the internal customer. Then we have to look at the process. And then, so I look at the people in terms of how do we build capacity within the force? How do we ensure that the government and our employer provide what I call the appropriate uniform? Because the way you dress as a police officer impacts on how you perform.
Yes.
So the appropriate,
The same simple was yes. It's correct.
the appropriate, so uniform, purpose-built facility, purpose-built equipment, so that when the police goes on the job, that police will be the best of who he can be. So the other issues, he should not be worried about the uniform I wear. Do I have bulletproof vest? Do I have ballistic helmet? Do I have the appropriate weapon, etc.? So, and then the capacity. How do we ensure that when we send the officer on the road, he's well trained? Because training actually inspires confidence. So it's building the confidence of the officer. Secondly, I think we need to look at the infrastructure that we provide for the police. Unfortunately, there has to be a significant improvement in the type of infrastructure that the police officer, in my view, spend more time at work than sometimes he spends with his family at his home. So we want to ensure that the proper infrastructure is in place. When you go to the station, the equipment that are there are appropriate. The physical structure of the station is conducive to working. I mean, as a civilian, the work environment
Yes, very critical.
The form of performance. So you have to ensure. Think about a police officer leaving his home and going to a place where he or she feels that it's not conducive. So what you're going to find is that pent-up emotion is going to be unleashed on the citizen.
It doesn't even, you don't feel like going to work. If you know you're coming to work,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So those are some simple things, but are important things that needs to be addressed. So we talk about infrastructure, we talk about process. And in the process, we want to establish a force that is not personality driven. Personality.
Okay.
But a force that is process driven.
I like that.
So when someone joins the organization, that person, from the time he joins, there's a pathway that he can follow to reach the top. I'm told that we have had a commissioner, for example, a local commissioner from about 2012, 2011, I think, or 2013, or the last night, there was a local commissioner. So I'm saying that we need a process that is very clear ambiguous that when you join the organization, if you do this and you do that, there's a possibility for you to reach the highest level within the organization. A process that ensures that if you do this, you are likely to be promoted.
Mm-hmm.
It's not based on
Who you are.
born or who you
Right.
are.
Mm-hmm.
But these are some of the things that are very important. And I'm talking about how do you make the force a professional organization?
Yeah.
Because if you don't make the force a professional organization, it will not get the respect of the citizen.
Take it seriously.
So these are things, it's like you flying the plane and you're building at the same time. Because you can't stop flying the plane because the violence is happening. So you have to work on these, but at the same time, you have to also treat with the issue of violence. So how do we treat with the issue of violence? Do we shoot our way through it? That's not possible. So we have to go in the toolbox and look at the various tools that we have. So whilst we do aggressive policing, and I'm a stickler for that, I will tell you, I am not going to hide. I believe also that we have to use aggressive policing within the framework of the law. And I will not tell any one of my officers to violate the law.
Yeah.
We have a rule of engagement. We have to adhere to that. But I'm saying that we are not going to retreat from the criminal.
Right.
We're going to face them. We are going to be up in their face.
Yes.
And let them know that we have the legal authority to act.
Yes.
And that's what we are going to do.
Yes.
So I can't go into the strategies.
I understand.
But we are working, and I will say to the citizens of Turks and Caicos, we are going to bring back order in this country.
Which will make us feel more
Secure. We are going to do that. We know that there are some communities that are more volatile, and we don't want to profile any specific community. But within the same breath, we are going to come, we're going to get you, and because really and truly, it's a few people that is created the problem.
I think so too.
The gangs, one of the challenges though that we face is the cultural barriers that do exist, especially the language barrier in some of the communities. And I want to speak on a broader issue that I think even within the force and within the communities, I think there has to be greater integration. I know it's a very diverse society.
Yeah.
And I understand the cultural reality, but there are different nationalities. And as a police force, we have to be, every time we make certain type of arrests, we have to get interpreted. To interpret.
But I thought they say a lot of police officers are now speaking different languages.
Yeah, we have a few.
Oh.
But what I'm saying, we need greater integration.
Okay.
We need greater integration because even I look at the process that we use to identify interpreters. If I don't speak the language, I don't know even if the interpreter is leading me in the right direction. I'm just making a general statement. So we need to have greater integration.
Okay.
So that's also important. Capacity building. We have to focus on that. In terms of our investigative capacity or operational capacity, we have to focus on that. The bottom line is, I said today, my executive, and I generally talk about it, that we need a Turks and Caicos way of policing. Whilst we understand it's a mixture of perspective, but we have police officers from right across the Caribbean, and we are a subject of Britain, and a lot of the processes are based on their processes. But I think the reality there is different.
Yeah.
I think Caribbean-wise, there's a commonality of reality.
Yes.
Type of crimes are similar. And I think the approach that we take, we have to define our own policing strategy and our own policing style within these islands. There's no one cut that fits all. But we have to pick from each culture, from each island, and create our own method and strategy in dealing with the violence. I believe strongly that the violence that we face, I'm not going to say it's a walk in the park, but it is something that can be cauterized. And we are going to cauterize it. We have some plans, as I said, like expose them at this time.
Yeah.
But we are going to cauterize it, and we are going to have people going about their business as usual, normal,
Feeling secure.
feeling secure.
Right. So we should see some things coming into fruition soon. Then.
Soon, higher visibility, greater activity by the police.
Finding the criminals.
The criminals are going to be found. There's no two way about it. And I guess maybe we need to do some more public relations in terms of our media. I have Miss Ren here, but for instance, in December, we arrested 9 gang members. Serious gang members.
Are they still arrested?
They are still arrested. So I think one of the areas that I wanted, and Ms. Ren and I, we have been talking about how do we expand our strategic communication. That is also important.
Yeah. Well, this is one way of doing it too.
Yes, that's an opportunity like this. And how do we constantly update our citizens and the activities that we are engaged in?
Yes.
The other area that we have to expand is our community policing strategy. How do we, and we have been doing a lot of work in respect to that. Mr. Gardner, who is now the acting assistant commissioner, is doing great work in terms of our community engagement. We have now a mobile police unit that we are using going to different communities, and there's a high visibility. But we need greater work and also partnership with some of our stakeholders. How do we, for instance, look at a community like Dockyard, and how do we, it's an informal community, but it's a problem. How do we now create structures in those communities, and how do we formalize, have a formal type of arrangement with those communities? And I think those are outside of the remit of the police. But I think some decisive action need to be taken in respect to communities like those, how we are going to treat with them. And bring them maybe in the formal structure. That's outside of my pay grade. I think we need to look at it because it's a problem.
Yeah, it is. Yes. Now I want to get into this next question. It involves the trust and accountability. It's alleged that a lot of residents will file reports, to the police stations, and they feel that as soon as they file the report, it gets nowhere, or who they file the report against, somehow that individual is contacted. And so there's a lack of trust between the community, among the community and the police. And people also want to report, these officers. I mean, how do they go about, or how do we go about making the police officers more accountable? And how do you go about making sure that the community, there's a trust among the community and the police? Because people, and that's why a lot of people are not even using, what's it called when you file police reports? We call them now in Florida Crime Stoppers. And that's why a lot of people even call Crime Stoppers, even though it's answered in Florida. They're still afraid that if they make a report to Crime Stoppers, and when Crime Stoppers send information over to Turks and Caicos, they still feel, even though we tell them, listen here, it's anonymous, they still feel that their information is going to get spread to the persons who they're complaining about. And so we have some problems.
I don't think it is unique to hear the issue of trust with law enforcement and the public. From where I'm from, Jamaica, we have that problem of trust. But when you do the research, many times it's a perception than reality.
Oh,
There was a Latin America research. I don't remember that thing, whatever they call it. They did some research about trust between police and within each other. And it will be surprising to see what the research turned out to be. A lot of times when people say they don't trust the police, it's not because they had a personal encounter with an action with police, but because somebody say, and somebody say, and somebody say,
and I understand.
and they go about and but I can't underestimate the fact that whether it's a perception or reality, we have to basically bridge that divide. So again, how do we do that? It's about how do we rebrand the force and be more transparent in our action. And when there are reports of breaches by police officers, the appropriate action is taken and it is made known to the public. One thing I will say to the citizens of this country, when there are breaches involving corruption, if it is brought to my attention, I will treat within it.
So we have to bring it. So how do we go about fighting those breaches or complaints? Where do we go?
We have a unit within the police force that treat with those, but I don't think I'm satisfied.
Oh.
So I am actually looking at how we can revamp the unit to make it more effective. And one of the things that I have said to the FET, that unit is going to report directly to me as a commissioner. So there's not going to be a middleman manager. It's going to report directly to me because that unit is so critical. It should fit, it should sit within the executive.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to reassure the public. And one of the things that I'm planning also to establish, we have the Crime Stoppers. But I want to create a special number where citizens can call in. Don't have to give up here, just give the information, especially as it relates to corruption within the force and the treatment.
Oh, okay. Now, I think one of the most recent headlines in one of the newspapers, there was an article, I think, stating that, of course, you're not here in Turks and Caicos when the double homicide took place. I think you were away in the Grace Bay area. And I think there was a headline article that said that the police will find the people who did this. And there's a lot of kickback from the community saying, why are you only focusing on that double homicide? What about all those unresolved murders that took place in the past? Why you say you're only going to find the person who dealt with those two murders? Well, what do you say to that?
The point is first of all, one of the things that I kept on saying to the men and women that I have responsibility for, that every family member want closure.
Yes.
It is, and even if they can't get closure, they want that reassurance that the police have exhausted all the investigative leads in trying to solve that specific case. Because there's nowhere in the world that you're going to solve all of the homicide. And again, it comes back to the support of the citizens. Because the citizens are everywhere. Police, we are not omnipresent.
You need help from the
You
community.
need help from the community.
Yeah.
But again, we have a responsibility to create that trust. And we also want to ensure that when people give support to the police, we can safeguard them.
Yeah.
So that is important. So I don't think we should place more emphasis on any particular homicide. A homicide is a homicide, whether it's happening in Grace Bay or whether it's happening in the so-called inner city. The same level of interest and the same level of focus should be placed on it. So I don't think we should make a distinction between grace maybe because maybe it's a more
tourism area. Yeah, I think that's because the way I think it's because the highlight of the article. It seems like that was the focus.
Yeah. But again, we have to be mindful that tourism is so critical to the economy.
Yeah.
We have to, and we have not only our internal and local people that we have to deal with, we have to deal with international people.
Yeah.
So that level, and I guess sometimes as a police organization, we might be seem to be more, putting more energy. But again, you protected the investment that which made the economy survive. So I hope the citizen will be patient with us when it comes to those type of investigation. I believe, and I'm a very practical person, there are lesser God and greater gods. That's the reality of the world. We don't want to be biased in our way. I mean, if there's a public official that is unfortunately killed, it's natural anywhere in the world. You're going to have that emphasis whilst you want to. And I talk about the process. Follow the processes that we have established in terms of how we investigate homicide.
Now, in your 40 years in Jamaica, in the short time you spent here, based on your experience and knowledge, what do you think is causing people to become criminals? Because I know a lot of times we blame the police, we blame the politicians, but politicians don't create criminals, police don't create criminals. Why do you think criminals are being created?
I mean,
it's different reasons, but
when you look at the various research and the various theories around, whether you were born a crime, criminal, whether the environment has to do with that. I think critical is the parenting. Parenting is important. I think we have to place more emphasis on proper parenting.
Okay.
We talk about the family is the first community when we do civics in school. And then we talk about the church and the other, where the entire community used to raise our children with globalization, where our children are exposed to all type of things through social media, via the internet. So their minds are being influenced.
That's the key thing right there.
And so we have to pay attention to those formative years of our child. How do we ensure that their value system is influenced by our value system? And we don't allow a third parent to parent our children. A lot of the time it's a social media that parent our children. We don't pay attention as parents. There are some fundamental values that we must expose our children to. And once the foundation is properly laid, I think as a man of faith, I'm a Christian. And the Bible says, train up a child in the way that he should go. When he is old, he will not depart. So it is important that so the influence of the community. Then one may argue that poverty also sometimes is not a causation. This is one of the fears. I remember I did a research and they said that 20% of all people are inherently honest. 20% are inherently dishonest. 60% is neither honest or dishonest. But the circumstances, the variables will influence it. So I think if that theory is correct, there's a propensity for 60% of the population to engage in criminal activity. So we have to ensure that we target harden from the things that will expose them to become criminal. So community, parenting, providing opportunities for our children when a child leaves school and is unable to survive, and they try and they can't get a job. I mean, there's a pull and the push factor, and one ultimately will triumph. So I guess we have to also ensure that we create opportunities, especially for young men.
Okay.
But I think the key element is proper parenting.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's a good point. Now, in terms of the government and the policing, right? All successive governments have said that they've given everything that the police have asked them for. And they've given them everything they're asking for, but we as residents of the community, we're not seeing any evidence of any productive output.
That's a little political to me. I don't want to say what the government gave, but we get.
But basically, whatever they asked for, the government said they gave it to you. And the people are saying, well, if you have everything they asked for, then why we can't solve crimes?
The problem is that I came to a force 4 months now here, and there are challenges. I mean, I don't think it would be fair for me to say that we have not gotten support. Yes, we have gotten support. But there are challenges
Within
the force. There are structural issues. There are, let's look at what an ideal police force ought to be. Sometimes we look at the active police officers on the front line. But I think over the years, we have not catered for the logistics, those what you call administrative support that are needed, the things that are on the back end that support the front line. And I think we have to now work on those back end issues. Look at corporate services. How do we do our procurement? How do we, there are some basic things that are missing from what you call modern policing.
Okay.
Structure.
So that's
there are structural issues within the force.
And you hope to resolve.
That's one of the things that I'm working very hard to address those structural issues, logistic issues. And it must be firm that in terms of the facility, the physical facilities that the police operate from, I think we need significant improvement. That is going to require significant capital investment, etc. Well, those are some of the things that
I understand.
I believe that if we rebrand and inspire confidence in the police, it will be reflected in their performance.
I get you. I understand. Now, because the Bahamas is our closest neighbor, and of course they have a lot of crimes as well. But of course, Turks and Caicos is very high per capita.
Yes.
But when we see what's happening in the Bahamas, it appears that even though their crime levels are high, but it appears that the Bahamas are finding their criminals, and the smallest Turks and Caicos is, it looks like we're not finding our criminals. I know we have a number of issues you discussed earlier about the community involvement. What do we need to do more of to find the criminals? Because we're a small country, and we should be able, I believe, to find these criminals. The Bahamas is much bigger than us. I think we have about 300,000 people. We have maybe 50,000, and they're finding the people. Why can't we find criminals?
When I look and do my own assessment, and I'm 4 months now, there are some things that are fundamental to even the way you deploy your resources.
Okay.
How do we correlate our data? How do we capture our data? And one may argue, where am I going with this? Data management helps in planning. You can't effectively plan without proper data.
True.
So when I talk about some of the back-end issue that needs to be fixed, our data management is one of them. In terms of how you allocate resources, I believe that resources must be allocated based on data-driven allocation of resources.
Right.
That's one of the challenges. When you look at the type of crime, especially violent crime, they have to be very cautious because I don't want to be profiling.
Yeah.
It is generally centered around persons of certain specific ethnic group.
Okay.
How do you infiltrate that group so that you can get the appropriate evidence? Because in many instances, I may know who did the crime, but arrest and charge is based on evidence, not just intelligence. We have intelligence, but the evidence is missing.
Yeah.
So that is one of the areas that we are trying to work on.
Okay.
To get the evidential support. I mean, there's technology that we use. But technology will not stand alone. They also need that human input to support what we have through technology.
So it's important for the community to be involved.
It's important for the community to be involved. So community support. So that's why building that bond and engaging the community is going to be critical. And how do we, because of the diverse type of communities we have, how do we engage some of them when there are language barriers?
Yeah.
I went into one of the communities, I was really helpless because I didn't understand one thing that was being said. And I had to get an interpreter,
to bring
someone with you and all of that. So that's one of the things that you have to. It's a very complex type of policing that we have to do here. Because even the criminals from those subculture, the criminals have their own subculture. So even when you go into those communities, how do we understand how the criminal communicate?
Okay.
In Jamaica, for example, I mean, dominantly we speak English, we have
Right.
to talk. But the criminals, when they talk, if you don't understand their language, you will misrepresent them. So these are some of the issues that we may have to deal with, but they are going to be improvements. I make this guarantee to the nation. There are going to be improvement. There are going to be greater resolution to some of the crimes, because I believe that if the crimes are unsolved, then more than the criminals.
Yeah.
And one of the ways to prevent crimes, when you solve the crimes, it reduces because the likelihood of being caught. There's a theory that a person will commit crime if they know that they are unlikely to be caught. If the likelihood of being caught is greater, it's like a rational choice theory that you will look at. So we have to ensure that the criminals are caught.
Okay. Well, we've come to the end of our show, and I just want to thank you very much for this opportunity, and I'm going to use this time to give you some closing remarks to at least reassure the public that things will get better.
What I will say to the citizens of Turks and Caicos Islands is that I know your concerns, and they are real concerns. The fear of crime is real. One of the things that we are trying to do is have greater visibility on our roads to provide that level of reassurance, and we are committed to making Turks and Caicos safer. We have the resolve, and we are making the appropriate plans. I can't get into all of the things that we are planning to do, but I said it at my first press conference that this year is going to be better than last year, and we are committed to that. I see greater coordination within the force from every level, from the level of the force executive to the last person within the force. And we are working to create that synergy and that focus, and we will ensure that you are safe. We are calling on you to support your police. It is together that we are going to make the difference. Crime and violence is not a police matter. It's a societal issue. that requires the entire society to join hands and heart together, working to ensure that all of us are safe. So the Royal Turks and Caicos Police Force, we are committed, and that's our job. We swear to serve, protect, and reassure. And we will do everything in our power to make you safer, with your cooperation and support. So if you see anything, you hear anything, call us, call Crime Stoppers, call 911, and we will take the appropriate action.
Thank you. I know I told you to get final remarks, so I just want to ask one more question. A lot of people have been begging the government to implement police stations throughout the different communities. What are your thoughts on that? I know the police very recently did a mobile police station, but don't you think having different police stations will also provide great access and a more feeling of security for the people in the community? Are there plans to start police stations throughout the communities?
One of the things that I learned is that I don't try to comment on government policy.
Well, you recommended that?
Yeah.
But
But I think, whilst I will recommend the establishment of police station, but to establish a police station, there are complex issues. Because if you put a police station in a particular local, you have to find resources. That's a manpower. The manpower that we are short of. So, doing the police, I talk about the logistics and the back-end work, because to establish a police station, you have to think of all the other attendant things that are needed. Cleaners, civilian staff, police staff, three shift. So, whilst it is ideal to have police station to inspire confidence in the citizen and greater accessibility, I don't believe that we should just install a police station for having a police station. If we're going to do a police station, we must ensure that the police station is properly equipped to serve the public and the community in which it is. So that is my personal view on it.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks again for watching the Drexel Seaman Show. Of course, my guest, Mr. Bailey, the Acting Commissioner of Police. I hope you're well informed. And I must say, I'm one of those persons very critical of the police, but I will say that I've seen an improvement since Mr. Bailey has been acting commissioner. And based on his track record in Jamaica, I'm looking forward for a reduction in crime in the Turks and Caicos Islands. But of course, it requires all of us to participate by providing the police with the information that and we playing a part in it, for making sure we're doing a great job with our children. We see our children need help. Don't take it for granted. Get help for them. A lot of people have going through mental issues. Don't ignore it. Get help, because they may do things out of control. So I encourage you today to be encouraged. I know there are a lot of you, especially families, whose cases are still open. You don't know what's going on. You don't know who did it. The murder is still loose. Hopefully 2025, we'll see big changes here at Turks and Caicos Islands. Thanks again for watching the Drexel Seaman Show.